Right, so what we see happening right now is that customers are looking for value from their vendors. They want to actually get something more than point products which they have to integrate themselves. Customers are looking to address the cost and the complexity which has grown up over the last 2 or 3 years or 2 or 3 generations of technology in order to get rid of embedded costs and complexity which has increased the risk they have, the operational risk of their businesses. And what they now want to be able to do is clean up their architectures, whether those architectures are IT architectures, process architectures, or business architectures, in order to reduce the cost and position themselves to be a more customer-centric business, which means having the right products delivered through the right channel at the right time to be able to present a compelling value proposition primarily to the retail and small business customers. Outsourcing continues to be successful. It's always a difficult business to be in the outsourcing business, but nonetheless we continue to have successful relationships and will be potentially announcing in this part of the world new strategic outsourcing relationships. I think we might see some of this in the more mature markets, particularly in Australia, but also in ASEAN. There are people who are now looking. And outsourcing in 2 flavors as well, by the way. The first is traditional IT outsourcing, but the second is what we call our MPBS, or Managed Business Process Services, which seems to be getting increased traction in the more mature markets, particularly in the areas of collections, right, and those generic services which support the bank or the institutions such as procurement, HR, financing, the low end of financing, in the same way that we've done that to set up global centers of competence. China looks like a business which is trying to understand, that is, Chinese banks are trying to understand themselves and what they really need to do. I think that they see themselves moving down a modernization path where they need to understand how they change themselves to be able to service their retail and small business customers, which is their new future, as opposed to state-owned enterprises. And what we see them doing is having consolidated all of their IT platforms, this is the larger banks, having consolidated their IT platforms so they now can have an enterprise view. They now need to actually execute that and have national banking, which actually has integrated data, has integrated value propositions, and is able to deliver consistent, high-quality customer experience no matter what part of China you're in. These are the challenges they're facing, and of course we're positioning ourselves to work with them to be able to deliver this as best we can.
Right.
Yes, well, our position in India is a relatively small one, but what we see now is that the last major wave of investment has come to an end about a year or so before the financial crisis. There's little bits and pieces. What we now see is the second wave of investment by banks starting, and we are positioning ourselves to be able to participate in that today. We see India as an increasing opportunity because of its growth, the rule of law, and its basic culture of high quality and commitment to that quality. I think that what we're seeing is that, based on the experience, that simply making a decision for an ISV and implementing an ISV has not been the most successful approach. That there needs to be a somewhat more complex approach, which involves understanding what are the functional and non-functional requirements and what is the best way to actually roll those out in for what most banks in Asia Pacific have, which is a complex environment, and how to actually make that happen. So we're seeing a return to looking at the architected approach and the bank driving as opposed to the ISV driving what the end state is going to look like from an IT and a process point of view.